Hey, Sanford here, your mind body connection guy. And welcome to another episode of Unlock to Unleash. And on today's podcast, we're going to be talking about another mental health issue that men and women avoid talking about because of the stigma surrounding it, and that's shame. So today's topic is called the shame that men carry. Now, the difference between shame and guilt, is very important because we get the two confused sometimes. Guilt means I did something bad, I did something wrong, and I did something to someone. Whereas shame is I am that situation, I am wrong, I am the problem, and there's something wrong with me, and I am unworthy of love. So it's more personalized, whether it's real or unreal. So I'm speaking on men's shame for two reasons specifically today. As men, we've got to come together and recognize our wives and our children are important, but they cannot talk in depth about our shame like we can and should as men. The second reason is it's a mental health issue that our families need to understand is real for us. And we need to let our women, our children, and other men know how to learn from us, also to understand what we are really feeling and who we really are from the inside out. Now, Brene Brown reminds us that there are three ways that shame stays alive in us: silence, secrecy, and judgment. Okay, let's dive in. I'm a black man and proud to be, though I hate when others try to judge me. I'm not here to be told that I have no rights. I'm not here to see others reach heights that I cannot reach. But more than anything, I'm here to understand every man. Now, I wrote this piece of poetry when I was 12 years old, after being threatened by a bunch of white guys. Okay? You see, when I was 12, I had two jobs. One was cutting grass. The other was delivering newspapers. Now, one day I was going into this white neighborhood, and when I was coming out, a bunch of white guys said to me, "If you come back into this neighborhood again, you won't walk out." So that frightened me, obviously, a great deal. So I got one of my white friends to go in and deliver the papers, and I paid him for the rest of that year. Okay. So the poetry became my release and the way that I could express myself in the world and, of course, through myself. It was a form of meditation, affirmation, even, mental health exercise. And, of course, I loved it. These days, I don't write a lot of poetry, but I write scripts such as like I'm doing for this podcast. I write for a magazine that I produce. And I write books on fear, addiction, trauma, purpose, and the power of people coming together to connect, to really help each other out by discovering their extraordinary potential. Now, poetry, of course, got me started and really helped to shape my thoughts. But I started writing because I was afraid and I was embarrassed and ashamed to talk about that day when those guys confronted me. I didn't want to seem weak. Now, this is, of course, why I wrote that piece, because so many men have issues expressing their true feelings because, well, we don't want to be judged and we don't want to be thought of as useless or weak. By believing that, men carry a lot of shame, just like when I was trying to deliver those papers. Now, it may sound ridiculous, but it's true. I was ashamed that I wasn't brave enough to go into those neighborhoods. I didn't feel like I could tell anyone because how would I be perceived? Well, I thought weak, and I couldn't speak about it. And, so discovering the gift of writing was a great gift, but it also shut me down and put me in a place where I didn't feel I could go to women and trust them with issues like that. It taught me that I couldn't go to them and talk to them about my feelings or about what was really really happening in my life. So why is this such a problem for a 12-year-old boy, you ask? Well, I'm sure you've heard of like little cliche phrases like boys don't cry, be a man up. Well, he must have the man flu. Women get raped, men rape. There are, of course, many, many others. Just to be clear, there are so many women out there and so many youth for parents, etc., etc., etc. Now, of course, those things put us in little boxes. But I just want to go back just for a second and share a few statistics, okay? And so I'll expand on this rape quote because anytime it comes up, it's a man who's afraid they'll be accused of something or labeled. All men, and what they really, really think is in a article. And it says that 40% of abuse situations happen to men. Studies show that childhood abuse is at least 10% higher in boys than it is girls. Now, women, of course, do get abused, but men can't talk about their abuse because it doesn't happen as much and it makes us look weak. So we can't really talk about it. Now, I remember when I first started sharing my story of when I was sexually abused by a man and then later by a woman. You know, when I started dating when I was younger, I used to share these stories with people. And they would look at me like I had two heads. Women would look at me like I had two heads. Now, needless to say, they didn't stick around too long because they had lost respect for me, or they felt that perhaps if there was a situation where we were confronted or we were attacked, that I couldn't protect them because I had these emotions and these things that have gone on for me. As a younger man, this brought up immense amounts of shame for me. Now, men would rather lie. We'd much rather lie about how we really feel or what's going on for us. It's just easier not to share those deep feelings because a woman, they may shut down. They may not like us. They may say, hey, I didn't think you could fall off that white horse. So I know someone may argue and say, my man tells me everything. Well, let me just hip you to this. No, he doesn't. Just like women carry shame, many men do too. Realizing how, traumatized we are requires three major things. And most of us in our relationships don't want to do the hard work. Okay, the three things are, first, we need to look at ourselves. Okay, we need to know what triggers our shame. Okay, we need to do a reality check of our shame. We need to reach out and share our story, and we need to give shame a name. Okay, once you start speaking to it, it won't hide. It can't hide. The second thing is you got to get some allies, some close family members, some friends, even professional counseling or psychology if that's going to help. Now, we all need a small team to keep us accountable and to be empathetic with us. Okay, so the first thing is we got to talk to someone that loves us. The second thing is we got to reach out and trust and show that when that person shows up, they're not going to BS us. Okay, the third thing is we got to be able to tell our story because shame cannot hide when it's been outed. For men, we are in sort of a societal prison enforced by other men, by women, and children. Again, men are taught consciously and unconsciously. Well, we can't handle emotions, we're told. Or men only want one thing. Or men are insensitive. Or, as I said before, real men don't cry, etc., etc. And when we are put in that situation, we tend to either act out or shut down. Okay? Or we take our shame out on something or someone else. We are locked in a solitary confinement with little to no means of reaching out. And we shut down and we push away our friends and our family. We return to a default mode of our addictions, which is food, alcohol, sleeping around, belittling or abusing those that are close to us. Or we simply try to destroy ourselves. from an article titled The Core of Men, okay, which I could totally relate to, okay. And it said, everyday shaming, that's what slowly chips away at a man's self-esteem. And so some things are when a man can't remember the names of his local football team, or basketball team, or soccer team. When a man, doesn't have a good sense of direction, he's made fun of. When a man describes, when a man can't describe a car or a computer. When they get nervous speaking in public. When they don't get a joke. Other things are when a man is pee shy. If you're in a room or in a bathroom and there's other guys around, he can't pee. He's made fun of. When a man has premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction. Okay. When a man is in the presence of other dominating women. Okay. It's not that he can't be around that, but if he's made fun of. Okay. A lot of men are constantly on guard in this world. They feel like they can be attacked at any time. Because when we are ridiculed, mocked, and bullied so much, okay, it really shuts us down. And imagine if you're from another culture or country, you get ridiculed even more, that you should speak a certain way, act a certain way. You feel deeply unsafe in this place. Now again, Brene Brown points out, over a man's life, if he's repeatedly shamed, humiliated, made to feel worthless, eventually he's going to get pissed off and shut down. And someday, somehow, he will explode. Now let me be clear. A man shouldn't hit a woman or children or even other men. Now that should be addressed. But what's not being addressed is the why. Why is he full of shame? Why is he full of humiliation? That's, to me, should be the first thing being addressed. The main question when it comes up, okay, is people act like addiction is the problem. It's never the problem. There's always something to go along with that, something that brought that person to that addiction, a man to that addiction. And when he gets pissed off, he shuts down, he acts out. There's always a why. Now again, I want you to remember the three things that help shame survive is silence, secrecy, and judgment. They are the doors that we need to unlock men. Men, I want you guys to hear this. We need to come together. And those we love need to understand we feel and have plenty of shame in our DNA that we need to shed. Now, of course, men can joke and play footy and work themselves into the ground. But vulnerability of self-disclosure, that's what we need to be able to share with each other and start to heal. Now, we can heal shame, but we have to approach it with not in a mechanical or scientific or logical way. It has to be a heart to heart. It has to be a soul to soul. We have to come together and break down the shame cycle. And that requires learning how to feel first like a man. And then we can become the man that we were meant to be. Thank you guys much for listening.